shipping goods around the globe is vital for economies everywhere. But did you know that almost 80% of all commodities traded worldwide are transported by sea? This makes maritime routes crucial for global trade. And as a result, countries around the world invest heavily in marine infrastructure to strengthen their influence by controlling key waterways. However, there's one country that's perfectly positioned to play a critical role in the future of global maritime commerce: Canada. With its vast coastline, strategically located ice-free ports, and advantageous geographic position, Canada holds a unique key to shaping the future of Arctic trade. But with great opportunities come significant challenges, particularly in the frigid and remote Arctic region, which is increasingly seen as the next frontier for maritime commerce. Canada's potential to dominate Arctic shipping lanes is unparalleled, offering the country new avenues for economic growth, resource exploitation, and geopolitical influence on a global scale. If Canada can strategically capitalize on these opportunities, it has the potential to reshape global maritime trade forever. But there's a big if in this scenario. Why? Because while some nations, like the United States, might support Canada's ambitions in the Arctic, the reality is much more complex. Before we delve into the obstacles Canada faces in pursuing its Arctic aspirations, we must first understand what makes the Arctic such a valuable region for maritime trade. The Arctic, located near the Earth's North Pole, includes the Arctic Ocean and the surrounding seas, as well as parts of several countries. These include 1. Canada. Canada controls a significant portion of the Arctic, including the Northwest Territories, Yukon, Nunavut, and parts of other northern provinces. Approximately 150,000 people live in Canada's Arctic, with many being indigenous peoples. 2. Denmark. Denmark's kingdom includes Greenland, which holds a substantial chunk of Arctic territory. Interestingly, Greenland is the world's largest non-continental island, with only about 15% of its land suitable for habitation. 3. Finland. A third of Finland's territory lies above the Arctic Circle in the province of Lapland, although it is sparsely populated. 4. Iceland. Although not a large Arctic nation, Iceland's strategic position gives it a role in Arctic affairs. 5. Norway. Nearly half of Norway's territory lies within the Arctic, including the counties of Finnmark, Nordland, and Troms, as well as the Svalbard archipelago and Jan Mayen. 6. Russia. Russia boasts the largest Arctic territory of any nation, with over 15,000 kilometers of coastline and a population of 2.5 million people living in its Arctic regions, which account for more than 50% of all Arctic residents. 7. The United States. The U.S. entered the Arctic domain with the purchase of Alaska in 1867, which includes territories such as the North Slope Borough and the Northwest Arctic Borough. The Arctic's significance in global shipping is growing rapidly. As climate change accelerates the melting of polar ice caps, new shipping routes are opening up, offering shorter and more efficient paths for global trade. The two most critical routes are the Northern Sea Route, NSR, and the Northwest Passage, NWP. Canada is particularly well-positioned to capitalize on the opening of the Northwest Passage, a sea route that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Canadian Arctic archipelago. This route offers a potentially shorter and more cost-effective path for shipping goods between Asia and North America, bypassing longer and more congested routes like the Panama Canal. Historically, the Northwest Passage was a fabled route sought by explorers for centuries, but it wasn't until 1906 that Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen successfully navigated the entire passage. However, it would take more than a century before a commercial vessel, the MS Nordic Orion, would make the journey in 2013, demonstrating the potential of this route as an alternative to the Panama Canal. If the Arctic continues to warm and ice continues to melt, the Northwest Passage could become navigable during the summer months, significantly altering global shipping patterns. Ships from Japan heading to Western Europe could save over 6,000 miles by taking the Northwest Passage instead of the Suez Canal, cutting travel time and costs by nearly half. Canada's control over the Northwest Passage places it in a strategically advantageous position. However, this control is not without its challenges. While Canada views the Northwest Passage as internal waters, giving it full control over who can navigate the route, not all countries agree with this designation. The United States, for example, sees the Northwest Passage as an international strait, which would allow unfettered passage for all nations' vessels without Canadian interference. This dispute highlights the broader geopolitical implications of Arctic sovereignty. If Canada successfully asserts its control over the Northwest Passage, it could wield significant influence over global trade routes, potentially restricting or permitting access to specific nations. For instance, Canada could decide to deny passage to Chinese ships while allowing vessels from other countries, directly impacting the economies of these nations. This potential power makes the Northwest Passage a highly contentious issue, with Canada's Arctic sovereignty at the center of global attention. While Canada's position is critical, it's not the only player in the Arctic. Russia, with its extensive Arctic coastline and ambitions, is another major contender in the race to dominate Arctic shipping routes. Russia's Northern Sea route offers another alternative to traditional shipping lanes, and Russia has invested heavily in developing this route as a key corridor for global trade. China, although not an Arctic nation, has also shown increasing interest in the region. The prospect of shorter shipping routes through the Arctic is appealing to China, which sees the region as crucial to maintaining its dominance in global manufacturing and trade. China has even published a 356-page guide for navigating the Northwest Passage, underscoring its intentions to be a major player in the Arctic. So, how is Canada preparing to assert its control over the Northwest Passage and capitalize on this emerging trade route? Currently, there are no binding international agreements that dictate who can navigate the Northwest Passage, although the 1988 Arctic Cooperation Agreement between Canada and the United States does require U.S. icebreakers to obtain Canadian consent before entering the passage. Looking ahead, Canada has two main options: charge a fee for passage through the Northwest Passage, or allow free passage with certain conditions. Charging a fee could generate significant revenue to fund infrastructure, search and rescue operations, and environmental protection programs, while also limiting the number of ships that pass through, helping to preserve the fragile Arctic ecosystem. On the other hand, allowing free passage could attract more international shipping traffic, boosting Canada's global influence and economic ties, particularly with Asian nations looking for cost-effective trade routes. So, Canada's strategic position in the Arctic, particularly its control over the Northwest Passage, places it at the forefront of a potential geopolitical shift in global trade. As the Arctic continues to open up, Canada has the opportunity to reshape global shipping routes, exert significant influence over international commerce, and bolster its own economic and political standing on the world stage. However, with great power comes great responsibility. Canada will need to carefully balance its economic ambitions with the need to protect the fragile Arctic environment and respect the rights of Indigenous peoples who call the region home. The decisions Canada makes in the coming years will have far-reaching implications, not just for its own future, but for the future of global trade and geopolitics as well. So, what do you think? Will Canada emerge as a dominant force in Arctic shipping, or will the challenges prove too great? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights on global geopolitics and trade. Thanks for watching.